That's what I mean.
This one did not need to be 4 episodes.
No, not even close.
I don't think so either.
Especially
just a way to kick it off. We're talking about Untold Swamp Kings, about Florida State Gators during the Urban Meyer era.
Might as well be a Water Boy documentary.
Yeah.
What, Tebow?
No, just like the Water Boy is all made of like fucking Southern football stereotypes.
Yeah.
It's all about like Florida, SEC, or Alabama, or Louisiana. It's somewhere, right?
Yeah. 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 The whole Tim Tebow thing, man, they didn't even really mention Cam Newton.
No, but they just mentioned playing him. They're like LSU.
But then he was the quarterback for Florida. Right? Didn't he get
Cam? No, Cam was LSU and then went to Auburn. I think he backed up at LSU and then got his big rise at Auburn.
Who was the quarterback then with the laptop scandal?
Oh.
That was the quarterback of Florida. That's how Tim got the job, because like someone stole a laptop.
Was it it wasn't the Leaf kid that they kept going back and forth with?
I don't know, because they showed Leaf moving on. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think it was
That's
Leaf
a good
either.
question. After 2007,
maybe?
Yeah. Not 2006, after the first championship.
I don't know why. I mean, obviously I'm a Buckeyes fan, so I was never a Florida fan, never dove into this stuff. But this is when I did watch a lot of football. I do know, to start it right off and talk shit, one, this movie I think is so football-oriented. Like, there's so much football. And, like, obviously it's about a football team. Right. But, like, they also had, like, I think they have 4 convicted, like, murderers on that team.
Yeah. Well, that was Aaron Rodgers' team. Yeah. I mean, excuse me, Aaron Hernandez.
Hernandez.
They didn't even mention him.
No.
And a little bit. Episode 3, there is a little bit about him.
Oh, yeah,
but
you
nothing
see him,
about,
in the background.
Nothing about what he did I saw. I
yeah.
didn't see episode 4 all the way through, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, and the player that got killed on that team, that people think that he's the one who killed him.
Yeah, even if he didn't, if you don't want to dive into the negative because you only want a positive movie, I understand that, right? Because it is your creative choice. But Aaron Hernandez, like, won a Super Bowl. Like, talk about him as an athlete at least.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, he was one of the greatest tight ends. Like, you know, so like
he's a big part of the reason why they won.
Right. Both the Pats and the Gators. So like, we're just gonna ignore that he existed. That makes it weirder.
Yeah. 41 arrests
on that team.
Yeah.
Or him.
41 on that team.
Yeah. How do they not like? And I get you want to do the positive spin, not the negative.
Yeah.
But like, that team was crazy.
Yeah, but also the title like alludes to like almost like, I know that the stadium's called the Swamp, but like it makes it seem like they're gonna talk about like this team of degenerates.
Well,
but they don't.
All led by like the perfect Christian boy.
Yes,
that's what like the story should have been. That's the good documentary,
that's the
right?
story.
Is you have Jesus Christ reincarnate, who's never seen titties.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of murderers following his lead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Urban Meyer's somewhere in between that.
Who's manic and crazy.
I kind of like Urban Meyer.
Yeah, Urban Meyer's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of like
He's a winner.
He is.
Until he wasn't.
Until he wasn't.
And then he really wasn't.
Where's he now?
Well, he went to the pros.
Now.
He went to the pros.
Well, he was in Ohio for a long time and won after that too.
He won one He won one more championship in like 2010, 11 or 10.
Yeah. The 2010s he was in Ohio for a while and had some success.
Yeah,
I mean, winning a national championship.
Again.
You watch all these documentaries and you're like, oh, like that's all there is. But like winning a national championship is fucking hard. You could say it's harder than winning NFL Super Bowl, arguably, because there's like 300,000 teams. You know, like there's so many teams and so many kids and so much recruiting and so many factors that go involved in winning a D1 championship that, like, yeah, you could easily argue it's harder. And the sliminess that's going on behind the scenes, they probably don't want to talk about that, but I'm sure that's going on in the Gators too. Everyone's paying somebody doing something.
Well, Meyer even talked about in that, what was it, the last episode, he was talking about how, like, literally the second they got in the locker room after their last win, their last title, he was in his office, like the door locked, like texting recruits.
Yeah.
About like, hey man, look what we did already. He's like, he instantly didn't care.
Right.
Just only was worried about the next season.
Because it matters too. Because if you don't do that, they're gonna go get recruited somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right, and then you lose.
It really shows though. I mean, what happened with him after the 2009 season, when he just basically retreated to his bedroom and didn't come out, and then retired, or quit, stepped down, and then changed his mind a few weeks later, came back for
A disappointing season.
Did a disappointing 2010 season. Then went on to Ohio State. For a lot of these guys, but in particular him, it really, to me, shows the downside of running on adrenaline all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because if things start to run against you, you start losing that adrenaline. You can't sustain anymore. And, it showed in games they lost. It showed in what happened with him, that just basically crumbled into himself for a while.
Yeah, I don't know how else you are at the highest level, though. I don't know. I don't think you can do that with balance. I don't know if you can do that with neutrality. I just don't think it's sustainable.
I don't think it's sustainable
but I don't think,
either way.
But I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's sustainable either way, and I don't even think you get there doing it passively.
I don't think that you can either.
You have to be a psycho.
But I think, you have to be a psycho, but I think to continue being able to do it, you have to have kind of a reserve of calm, of something, right?
I think they're alcoholics or gamblers.
Yeah.
That's like their escapism. Because I don't think there's been a coach that's done it forever. I mean, Popovich would probably be the best guy to dive into in the NBA, right? Like, he's done it 30 years, which is kind of crazy. I don't know.
When it comes to the NBA, though, dude, there's so many people involved. It's way more delegating, and
I don't know. I still think you're on the pressure, though, because you're the one ESPN's yelling out about losing. They're not talking about your assistant coach, you know, and they're not talking about the player. I just don't know anyone. Urban Meyer's a pretty good example. He did about 20 years of success,
Yeah.
Of being the guy. I don't know a lot of people that do it for over 10 years. LeBron, obviously. Anywhere at this highest, most pressurized. I mean, even Tebow was talking about he played 3 downs as a freshman, and he's like, "You don't know the pressure." Shut up, bitch. You fucking you gained 1 yard. Shut the hell up. You got an all-star quarterback in front of you. That guy's taking the load right now.
Yeah.
I just don't know. And there is pressure on Tebow, obviously, but to be the guy like Urban, I think you have to be psycho, and then I think that's why you're all gambling and alcoholics.
And apparently, hold on, let me pull this thing.
He said he's already getting addicted to Ambiums.
I don't know about him in particular, but I just mean at that level.
Yeah.
They all have to have an out because they can't just shut down. Otherwise, they're just gonna be on their phone recruiting people all day.
Yeah.
We should note that Meyer went on as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that did not work out.
No, that was one season, and then they literally fired him after that season.
Yeah, did not work out. But he went on to do commentary on TV.
I think he still does.
I don't know. I really I'll have to look at that in a second. But apparently he also likes to chat up college girls.
Yeah, that Jacksonville team that he had was a god-awful team, and no one was going to help that team.
That's the main difference between NBA or college and the NFL is if you're the head coach and you get a little momentum in college, your recruiting goes way up. NFL's a lot of dollars, and it's a lot of politics. It's what you're dealt more, where you can kind of manipulate your own wild card in college a little bit.
Through recruiting and whatever.
Yeah, and other things.
By whatever means.
Kind of, yeah. Sometimes money, sometimes illegal stuff. But even legally you can, because if you're the guy, you can find a network, you can get a sponsorship. That stuff matters. Say Florida did suck, but Urban came in, and they were okay when he came in. But he gets a Jordan cleat deal. Your recruiting goes up, right?
Yeah.
He gets a Gatorade deal. All right, your recruiting goes up. There's other factors where at the pro level they want a big check, or they want to win a Super Bowl, and anything in between, or they want to play where they grew up. It's way harder to quote unquote recruit or sign people.
Or they want to go someplace where there's going to have a whole town behind them and 100,000 people every game.
Yeah,
and just experience that adulation. There was a fair amount of talk about that
in Florida.
In this talk.
Yeah, I mean college football, bro. That's the dream. I wish I would have played.
I wish I cared. I mean, I do, but I don't. I don't follow college football. I never really have.
I follow it not super intensely. If I was an alumni somewhere, I'd probably follow it more.
Well, that's the purity of it that I do like. You bleed your school.
Yeah.
And everyone goes for years. It's something you
becomes
especially
a part of you.
if you're like born in those cities, like I only got a taste of it because my dad's from Ohio, and so everyone's a Buckeye fan. Like it just works. And the amount of I've probably said this on this podcast too. Like if you drive around Sacramento, you'll see like an American flag, nothing. Maybe a King's flag, nothing. Maybe an American flag. You're driving around Cleveland, Ohio. Every house has a Browns flag, a Buckeyes flag, and probably an American flag.
Yeah.
Like every fucking house.
Yeah.
Like you're going to the grocery store and there's Buckeyes gear everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I need a jacket for the game. You just go to the grocery store. You go to CVS.
Yeah.
Like you have to go to a specialty King store here to grab a jersey. You know, like you and I were talking about, I think, off air. Yeah, back in the day, sometimes our grocery stores might have like a little King sticker or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they have a whole thing. It'd be like a whole wall of Buckeye shit and then fucking beer next to it, like at every grocery store. And so I think from a young age, you just are so about it. It gives it like a more community for sure, but just like like a real pride in what's going on. Where I think the West Coast, because there's so many transplants and people move in and so much space in between, it's just so different.
Yeah, there's so many damn teams too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean, you're from San Francisco, you get 8 teams to choose from.
Yeah, that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they didn't talk about the fact that Spurrier was not the coach immediately before Urban Meyer. Spurrier left in 2001 for the Redskins.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the tween.
So I don't know who was in the middle there. So they really made it sound like he was just following up Spurrier, and so it made the games against the Gamecocks.
Yeah, deal.
Bigger deal, a little more drama, but.
Yeah, probably just because of that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they alluded to that or they were just talking about, his obviously history with Florida. Yeah.
I just think that maybe a little bit more than some of the other ones, this one is really kind of cooking the books on the dramatic stuff.
Yeah, and the timeline. I actually thought they didn't do as good of a job. That's why I guess my opening statement of like it was so much football. I feel like they didn't dig into like the humans as well as other Untolds did.
Yeah, I think that's true too.
This is more about like
it was like a play-by-play.
It was more of like a history lesson on that era, more than about like the rise and fall of fucking
all of it.
Yeah.
Tebow, Urban, Hernandez. Like that should have been for sure the story. Is like Urban's maybe this neutral character, and then you have Tebow over here, fucking praying all day, and then you have fucking 8 murderers following him. That should have been like the triangle story and digging into how the personalities met, intertwined. But everything, at least I only watched like 2.5 episodes, but it literally felt like it felt like an NFL documentary. Because they were just showing like football strategy and talking about him doing a spread offense and when they used Tebow and how they scored and how they recruited. It felt very where even every other Untold felt so human.
Yeah, I think that part of it was that obviously they didn't cover everybody they could have covered.
Yeah,
but they still covered a lot of people.
They did,
and so you're getting little pieces of it, and I guess you're supposed to infer how it all fits together, and like why it worked and why it didn't, and they lean in on Spikes and his level of commitment.
Yeah, they did a little bit with the linebackers.
Yeah,
like emotionally, but even that it felt very surface level.
Yeah, and then they really glazed over the top of the guys who got in trouble, and they really only talked about the ones that didn't get in much trouble.
Yeah.
They got in trouble, but not much, and so like they were willing to talk on camera about being afraid of what the repercussions might be. And in the 3rd episode, they talk about the guy that they've never talked about before in the whole thing, who hit his girlfriend, and Meyer cut him loose, and a year later he was dead.
Yep.
Yeah,
and so that's why he wouldn't cut any of these guys.
Yeah, and maybe Aaron Rodgers or
they had someone staying with him, right? Who was staying with him? Who lived with him? Urban Meyer.
Oh yeah,
one of the players was living with him.
I was listening, not watching, so I'm not sure who it was. Who had no family connection at all. Dad was in jail 95% of his life to that point, and mom was whatever mom was doing.
Yeah.
And so he had nobody, he had no birthday party ever, he had nobody to spend Christmas with or holidays or whatever, so he just kind of lived it, Urban Meyer's house.
This house looks like he's doing okay still.
Yeah, I'm
right
sure
on the water.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
he's chilling. I do wonder, I guess, maybe from the filmmaker's point of view, or whoever the big company is, Netflix, I guess, maybe there's too many Aaron Hernandez documentaries already, because there are 2 of them.
I haven't seen either one of them, but that one of those might be worth it if we decide which one's good.
They're just like very murder doc. I just need something in between, because I love sports, but I don't want to watch a football game when I'm watching a documentary. I'll just watch a football game, and that's what this felt like. But then on the opposite end, a lot of the Hernandez ones, I've just breezed through them. They're just like a murder doc, and I don't want that either.
Yeah.
You know, like how do we... And Untold, historically, I felt like hit the perfect mesh for me of sport and human. Like, even the Manzo one wasn't, like, my favorite documentary ever, but, like, the balance of sport to human was good. And the storytelling was a little better to me.
It's funny, like, a lot of people, like, wanted me to watch this one. Just people, like, talking about the Untolds.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you got to see this one. And I'm like, okay. And I just never got around. And we watched these other ones, so I knew we'd get to it. It was probably my least favorite one.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of driven to keep watching it, but it was my least favorite one.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it's because I'm talking about, like, it felt so spread out. It didn't feel like there was a key, like the Manziel one, at least you know what they're digging for.
Mm-hmm.
We're digging to find out what drives Manziel.
Yeah.
And it's not football. Is it drugs? Okay, at the end you find out Manziel doesn't even know. Like, at least there's this thing. With this, it was just like, well, let's talk about a good football team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the very chronological structure of it made it boring. I think that the kind of the best documentaries are the ones that can compare and contrast a couple points in time.
Yeah.
And give you a greater sense of what's going on inside the characters in these moments.
Yeah, the
as
Manziel one
opposed to-
bounced around.
Yeah.
It
a
did,
lot more.
yeah.
And that one, that's what made it interesting.
Yeah.
We didn't cover The Last Dance here, did we?
No.
The Last Dance is so good. And obviously Jordan's story is insane and Jordan's insane, but like how it's filmed, how it's shot is exactly what you're talking about. Like per episode is kind of focused on a player or an era, and then it dances within the timeline, and they clearly show you it. They have a cool animation to show you the timeline. But then it talks about like when Rodman joined the NBA, then when Rodman joined the Bulls. But then the next episode will talk about when Pippen joined the Bulls. So it jumps timelines. It focuses on an individual, but the overarching is like Jordan's relationship with the Bulls and the individuals.
Yeah.
Like it's just so well shot.
They use that. I think all the Untolds use that timeline graphic, some version of it, but this one only went forward.
Yeah, true.
And never went backwards.
True.
In sharp contrast to Manziel and the Shaun White one.
Yeah.
Shaun White one was all over the
Jumping
place
around
all
too,
the
yeah.
time, but you got a better sense of what was going on and like who he was.
Yeah, and you can look at different aspects at different times, like just his competitive history, then his what's happening personally through that history.
And
then,
I didn't watch the whole thing. I think I watched the first episode and a half or so, but I got a stronger sense of who he was from that than I got on from any of these people. Does Tim Tebow make you uncomfortable?
Yeah, no, I've never
the
been
interviews
a fan.
with him were just weird.
Well, I think because that's his affect all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an odd guy.
Yeah.
I've
But
met,
like he has a lot of charisma on because he was a big analyst.
yeah, no, yeah,
And
does,
he
like,
has
the Saturday.
charisma on there, but like these interviews, you're just like, what is going on?
It feels very PR ready, you know. It feels
Yeah,
very like
polished.
Yeah, and he's always given me a weird vibe. I've met people in my life that are similar to that, and you know, I was raised pretty damn strict Catholic until I was 18. Like I've been around a lot of God people, but like how he moves is a little diffy.
And he is huge currently. I mean, he's
Like jacked?
Yeah, he's
I'm
jacked.
Sure.
He,
I'm
like
sure he hopped on a little sauce.
I was going to say
Jesus' juice.
I was going to say
Probably
Jesus
already
juice.
was.
Yeah. Michael Jackson is not the only one who talked about Jesus juice.
Yeah, he's always giving me weird vibes. But I do agree. He acts a little bit more broy, a little more normal on the TV shows, on the analysts.
I think he's unless you decide he's completely a tryhard, I think that he seems more normal in the locker room scenes.
Yeah.
And the sideline scenes than he does in the interviews, either the interviews from back then or the interviews, the contemporary ones.
Yeah, either one I don't know.
How many times are they going to show him talking about like, there should have been another banner up there?
Yeah.
Like they use that scene in that line, like he said it like 10 different times now. I was like, okay,
Yeah, we get it.
yeah, we get it, but like you also lost,
Right.
Like you don't know, you didn't deserve shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there
And-
should not be another one up there because you guys got fucking manhandled. What are you talking about?
Well, and look at the 2006 season where they won the whole fucking thing. they did it by the skin of their teeth.
It wasn't like they didn't run away with it.
It was. They acted like a politician does who wins by 2 votes,
Right.
and then they act like they have a mandate, right?
Yeah.
And they're a rock star politician. It was the same thing with a whole fucking team of guys.
Yeah.
Who won by the skin of their teeth. Go great adulation from that, like. Hey, it feels good to accomplish this, especially against odds, and then you forget the against odds part, and think that you're just you're going to plow through everyone from this point forward.
Well, and even the season before that, right? The 05 one was when they were like winning barely every game, right? They were winning by like 2 points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they
And
went
they were
out.
talking about like being dominant and talking about all this stuff. I'm like, well, dude, you are kind of.
You get high on your own supply.
Yeah.
And they went out the same way that they went in, though. Like they went out like that last season, they weren't dominating anybody.
Yeah.
Only thing that made it more dramatic was like Urban Meyer talking about how they should have won more by more points, but they just weren't.
Yeah.
Like maybe he was just more like confused on who he actually had out there. It's like, you want them to win by 40 or whatever, sure, but like you didn't.
Well, and you do wonder, even like to draw it back to like Tebow's recruiting, like what does college tapes look like? Because it looked like he was just the same size dude. So of course, if you're 17 and you're 6'3", 220, you're gonna shit on high school kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like of course.
Yeah.
Like that was me in 8th grade. I was 5'8", $170. I was literally just a man amongst children in 8th grade. But that doesn't last forever.
The fact that Alabama was even the number 2 ranked team, like in that last one that they lost to Bama, and it's like, well, is that because of the hype behind the Gators for like those last couple of years?
For sure, it plays a role. And
like
Urban Meyer's return, for sure.
It's like
that's why they switched, right? Now they have a mini playoff because it was so power ranking biased.
Yeah, the power rankings, especially then, the power rankings were like horse shit.
Yeah, it was just politics.
BCS was garbage for a long time.
Yeah, it was just politics. And I mean, that's where
they got fucking smacked.
Like, it works if there's a playoff, right? Because, like, even in college basketball, they have power rankings. And if you're 7 and 8, it's not going to make a big deal because you're all going to end up in the tourney and you're going to figure it out then. Like, you're going to have to play.
The preseason ranking for the Gators in 07 after they won in 06 was 5th, right? Yeah. I think that's what I saw on the screen. And, I mean, in some ways that's lower than you would expect. I mean, maybe there were some elements of the BCS ranking that were, kind of legitimate, but as you said, it became so much of a political thing.
Yeah. Like, who's paying to get the number 1 or top 3 preseason ranking?
Well, now the recruiting of high school kids and the tape you have on high school kids, both basketball and football, are so much greater that the accuracy of preseason recruiting rankings is probably way better.
Probably so.
But like in 07, I mean, I'm telling you, like you're not getting recruited with tape. Like there's no one's taping their games.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a thing. But now, if you don't have an Instagram for your son's athletic career, you don't have a chance to get recruited. So like whoever makes the BCS rankings has way more access to know who's coming in, who's the incoming player, and is he legit, is he overrated.
Yeah, these kids are going into college getting recruited off of like YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you'll get a couple YouTube channel views, and then you'll go to a big tourney in Vegas or Orlando, and then a recruiter will come watch you and make sure you're legit, and then you're in. So like you've been vetted way harder. And same with whoever the analysts are, they'll be able to see. I mean, a lot of those games are on like TV now, which we'll do another podcast on BS High, but like a lot of it is on ESPN now. That wasn't a thing.
No,
that wasn't a thing. There's maybe like a Texas or California state championship game on like your Bay Area TV show or what, you know what I mean? But not on ESPN.
Yeah, as soon as this documentary started, like got through the first, couple, I was like, oh, okay, this is not going in the direction I wanted this to. So maybe I was just being negative and finishing it out. But then the way it ends, I thought was also just like them complaining about not winning the championship. The last episode especially, it's just like they're just complaining about not winning. But like the coach is complaining, the players are complaining. But it's like, you guys just didn't play good.
I wonder if the Netflix.
What are we doing stretching this out? Like you don't deserve anything.
Yeah, and obviously
nothing should just be given to you because you think you deserved it.
I wonder if a lot of the filmmakers were fucking Gators fans. It felt like a Gators.
It felt like it was made by Gators.
That's
fans.
a good question.
That's why it felt like it's like because NFL made documentaries and shit. You've probably seen some of those back in the day. Like those are like kind of fan fiction things. And so like,
Yeah.
and so like it kind of felt like that because
The
like
autumn wind is a raider.
yeah, and so which is cool, and there's a place for that in filmmaking for sure. But on this again, this Untold docuseries that we've been on, they've been shot so well, and the stories have been so good. This one just felt so football centric to me. It didn't tickle me anywhere, and I love football. I like football. I watch football my whole damn life.
They made it seem like almost like they were like robbed of something.
Yeah, and that was the big storyline.
Yeah,
right?
but
like you earned all this, and then
and then like we just got it stolen from us. It's like, well, none of that.
No, you coughed it up.
No,
That's
you
different.
just didn't win.
Yeah.
God damn it, Aaron Hernandez.
Against Alabama, stacked Alabama team.
Who was their other tight end? Didn't they have two tight ends that were crazy? Aaron Hernandez.
I don't know, man. That position gets banged up pretty hard. So
Yeah, I think they had another one.
yeah, that was that was not the story I wanted from that group of characters. I mean, you talk about like the most insane group of people on one team, like the stories that could have been told.
Oh no, they didn't talk about any of it.
Yeah, the guy who is the showrunner for Untold for Netflix right now. He's actually went to school at NYU. I don't think he has a Florida connection, but he has been responsible for being show running some of the ones that we actually liked. Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist, which was really good.
Yeah, it was
that
good.
one was good.
And
was
obviously
really
the story is crazy, but these stories are crazy too, and they just didn't do it. Like even Percy Harvin, they had the talent and the characters to like interview, but they barely talked to him. He's like an amazing NFL quarterback or wide receiver.
Yeah, I wish I would have touched on maybe also more of like they very, very quickly glanced over, and I know the story isn't about Tim Tebow exclusively, but they just didn't talk about how his style of play just doesn't transfer to the NFL, like the way he was doing it. Like he wasn't really a great quarterback.
Yeah.
No, and Meyer tried to bring him in at his first year or his only year at Jacksonville, and
Like, what do you think?
and cut him before the season started because he just
Yeah, can't get her done.
It's like, did he really even have any good tricks,
Yeah.
or was it all just like a perfect storm?
I think a lot of it was
think about it
perfect
because
storm.
it's like, I don't know. There's not a lot of people can just go from playing the game in college to playing the game in the NFL. So I mean, remotely even on the same spectrum of talent. Because like every single guy on an NFL roster was the best guy in the nation on that position.
Yeah.
Like at one point.
And even
It's like
even
that's what
high
you're playing
school to
against
college.
in the NFL.
Even high school to college.
Yeah.
Like Tebow was great, but I saw it even on Twitter, and it's probably because this documentary came out. But like, who is, some of the greatest quarterbacks in college history, and like a lot of people do put Cam Newton above Tebow. And Cam did have a better NFL. Like if you're like really well rounded in college, you'll have some success in the NFL. And Tebow just wasn't very well rounded.
so Cam Newton did play at Florida in 2007.
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
yeah.
It wasn't LSU. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Florida.
So he
and then
stole
went to
that
Auburn.
laptop, and then they kicked him off the team, and then Tebow got the job, right? I thought that's what happened.
Yeah, probably. And then Auburn was the money scandal he went through.
Like that's a huge story for this documentary, you would think. They just
Especially for Cam, Cam's like stardom and success.
there was all that drama about the laptop, I remember. I should have looked it up before we...
I'm trying to do that right now.
Yeah.
Just vamp for me for a minute here.
Yeah, it was just like, I remember there was... Okay, yeah, because like they didn't even talk about that. How do you not talk about Cam Newton and attached to this team?
Well, then it goes and plays for one of your like rivals.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a member of the Florida Gators in 2007 and 2008. As a freshman in 2007, he beat out fellow freshman quarterback John Brantley as the backup for Tim Tebow. Played 5 games, passing 40 yards, 5 of 10, and rushing 16 times for 103 yards and 3 touchdowns. In 2008, during his sophomore season, Newton played in the season opener against Hawaii, but sustained an ankle injury and took a medical redshirt season. On November 21st, 2008, Newton was arrested on felony charges of burglary, larceny, and obstruction of justice on an accusation that he stole a laptop computer from another University of Florida student. He was subsequently suspended from the team. Campus police tracked the stolen laptop to the athlete. Newton tossed the computer out his dorm window in a humorously ill-advised attempt to hide it from the cops. All charges against Newton were dropped, of course, after he completed a court-approved pretrial diversion program. I believe that a person should not be thought of as a bad person because of some senseless mistake they made, said Newton in 2010. I think every person should have a second chance, and if they blow that second chance, that can be it for them. Then he went to
Auburn on a salary.
Yeah, for sure.
Essentially, yes.
For sure. But yeah, like that.
Well, I actually
how do
went
you
to Blinn College in Texas, and that ultimately.
how do they not brief on that?
Yeah.
How do you not touch on that?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
You
I don't know.
what I mean?
I mean, maybe.
It's-
Maybe this documentary is just about the play, and I mean it really does sideline a lot of the personality stuff.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
was
but-
what made all these good.
But I don't know what the goal is of the documentary then. Because there's tons of good college football franchises,
Yeah,
right? Like you could go.
Yeah, where's the Bama story?
Yeah, where's the Ohio State? Where's the
story?
Michigan? Where's the USC? Where's the Reggie Bush? Like
Yeah.
there's so many like, oh, we just want to like show a good team. There's tons of good teams.
well,
Yeah.
I think part of it's the fact that it's Florida, and so you got to. There's a certain built-in audience, people who want to watch it, and they don't want to
Yeah.
watch negative shit. So
Yeah, but even
but we do want to watch negative shit.
well, we do,
Yeah.
but
but even their fan base isn't like, if I'm going just money, I'm probably not going there. Like for who's going to watch a documentary on a team,
yeah.
I'm probably going Notre Dame, probably going Ohio State, USC. Like they have more fans.
I don't think you could go wrong doing it with Notre Dame. I really
For
don't.
sure, yeah, there's just
'cause,
more
like,
fans.
Even people either love or hate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no soft feelings one way or the other about Notre Dame.
Yeah, I just don't really know where the pick comes from, because all the things that made that Florida team interesting, they didn't cover.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right? They just covered
That's a whole synopsis in
Yeah.
a nutshell.
because they
that the right word?
might as well just do it on Utah when Urban Meyer was there.
Yeah.
Right? It would have been the same documentary. Taking an okay team, making them pretty good, and then they got bad.
Yeah.
and maybe this is a documentary that's just about Urban Meyer, but
Yeah.
not
not good
Urban Meyer
either.
in the Florida years.
Change the name.
But it was
Yeah.
like football.
The rise and fall of Urban Meyer.
But it was-
Meyer
Yeah.
Untold.
Right.
It was like football Urban Meyer, because then they didn't even really dive into his military background. They like scope it. They didn't
Right.
dive into like his spread offense. They just kind of barely
Yeah.
touch it. They don't like dive into what makes a little bit in the first episode, right? They talk about like the extreme drills you would run, and then
Which-
some of the players would talk about some of that.
Yeah, it's like, how can you play well when you've destroyed yourself?
I think you nailed
the-
it. They
in the
should have
way.
made this about him.
Yeah, I think that if they had retitled it, I don't think we would be so disappointed.
I think you're right. I think that's it.
But even still, I think it would have been too football for me, because they didn't like show like
Well, it'd been definitely too long one way or the other. Like
Yeah.
one episode, Urban
Yeah.
Meyer.
Yes. I would have been way more understanding of the direction with a 1 to 2 max episode Urban Meyer story of like his kind of like his kind of different technique and like his kind of manic behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that would have been interesting. Like, oh, this guy was a nut. I didn't realize he was that, whatever.
I don't know. It didn't tickle my pickle, man.
No.
I wish it would
It
have.
was a bummer.
Yeah, I wish it would have, because it's getting a bunch of love, and who knows? Because the
Yeah, I don't
ratings,
understand that.
the ratings on Netflix are probably all lies,
It's,
right? Like
it's
what's
not as highly rated as you would think on Netflix, too, though.
well, it's just always in the trending category.
Yeah,
for me.
it's a trending, but they manipulate that.
I know, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was about to say obviously the ratings are not accurate; they're all just to give views. But then why even put that up there if it's not that good?
Because they're trying to get people to watch
Well, they're
it.
probably getting people to clickbait on it, thinking
Yeah.
what they're going to get's a Hernandez story or
Yeah.
whatever, or like a more of a Tebow. I don't know. Maybe I think a lot of people know about the history of the team and who's on it,
Yeah,
and I think they're expecting something, and they're not getting any of that.
I literally think it's 4 murderers, which is crazy to not even like.
Yeah.
4 murderers on one college football team is crazy.
For any and all of us who have made content before, like part of the success of your content is creating an expectation of what people are going to see, and calling the Swamp Kings is a little clickbaity.
100%, 100%.
Because it doesn't really. I mean, they just gloss over most of the guys, and they talk a little bit about the bad behavior that came from them thinking that they were the kings of the swamp. But
I guess what's holding them back though from telling the good story that's there?
I don't know.
'Cause, like clickbait's a thing for sure, right? Like all that matters, title, thumbnail, all that matters to get people in. But it's only like shit clickbait when you have no substance behind it. But it's like the cake is sitting right there, and they just don't want to cut it. That's my right. It's not like
I think that-
understand all this, but
Yeah.
why not dig in when the cake says "eat me" and it's looking at me?
Well, I think that the maybe the subject that they should have grabbed is easy to see. I think that getting the kind of information that they would have needed for a 4-episode documentary about that stuff might have been hard to get people to talk about that stuff.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just listened to a podcast about sexual abuse, primarily of women in 12-step programs. It's called the 13th step. The 13th step is when you bang somebody in your program.
Nice.
Yeah, the 13th stepper. That
sounds dark.
It's a whole thing. And how often these programs are run by people who have no background in anything at all except being addicts.
Yeah, they're just volunteers.
And at the beginning of that, people were willing to talk shit about the guy who owned this place in Ohio. Shocker. And then another guy in California. But the Ohio guy like sold his company and had millions of dollars, and so he could combat everything that they were trying to do in terms of getting interviews. So a lot of like women came forward, and men too came forward and talked about what they saw or what happened to them personally. And as the story went on and the reporting went on, there were people started pulling out of it because they started seeing like there was the reporter and some of the people involved in producing it were targeted for vandalism and stuff, and they just oh man, I'm just gonna back off of this. Like, don't use my name, don't use my voice.
Interesting.
So I wonder about that. I mean, it's maybe a little bit easier in stuff that's very public. Like,
Aaron Hernandez was pretty public.
That was very public, yeah.
And like you could go to like the old trainers, interview the fucking water boy, interview a teacher.
Yeah,
you can dive in or interview other players. Tebow's obviously looking to talk. Say, hey, bro, like you're so close to Jesus Christ, and like you were friends with Aaron Hernandez. How does that feel? You know,
like friends. Yeah, yeah. Like apparently close. And
Spikes is a character. Like there's so many good characters in that thing, but even the interview questions were just so like level. Oh yeah, he brought me to the arena and told me I'm the leader now. I'm like, all right, bruh.
Yeah.
Like, was this a Disney movie?
That really had a Disney quality.
Yeah, and like that probably happened. And in real life, if stuff like that happens, I do think it's like cool. Like I had really cool mentors do little stuff for me, and like that is special and handing of the reins and stuff. But like talking about it just seems fluff, right? When it happens, it can be meaningful, and there can be like good stuff. But
I think it's meaningful to the people who were directly involved and the people who find that stuff inspiring. I felt like it was a little
that's my point.
Contrived.
No, that's my point. But like, when it happens, it can have power, but telling the story of it is meaningless.
Yeah.
Telling the story of it is meaningless. But to the team or to Spikes, it could have been a huge deal and could have played in his success. But it would have been more documentary style to talk about his murderer on the other side of the ball.
The 4 episodes is very confusing too. It's like, man, like that was just stretched out garbage.
I thought it was really odd too that because I thought it was going to be, 05, 06, 07, 08.
Yeah.
And
like each episode kind of.
Yeah, and in episode 3 is 07 and a good deal into 08.
Mm-hmm.
I guess to keep you going because I don't know.
Yeah, some kind of hook to get you to finish this snooze fest.
Yeah, none of it kept me going. Yeah, maybe one of the worst ones we watched.
Yeah.
Because it was just so it literally felt like I was watching a football game. Or like a Sunday, they're like, let's dive into how the Rams-Niners game went. And then they play shit. That's what I felt like I was watching.
Yeah, those are terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate those.
It's like watching post game, but from years ago.
Yeah. 1999 Super Bowl post game.
Yeah.
That's what we watched.
The a thing that I've noticed over a couple of the ones that we watched lately is that like we're in the widescreen era though. Like all the film was 16:9 and not 4:3. It was, and it makes it seem like so recent. Maybe you don't need to examine it yet. I don't know. They didn't do a good job of examining it, so that's.
Yeah, I mean, this one's 12 years old-ish, 13 years old-ish. But then the next episode we talk about is like 2 years ago, last year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Yeah, like what's the documentary rule for when you cover something?
That's a good question.
Well, shit, man.
Like a year ago feels too tight.
Yeah.
But then it's a news story.
But that story's fucking crazy.
It's really good. It's a really good story.
Well, shall we wrap this one up then so we
Yeah.
can get to that one?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a pretty good story. That's why I wanted to do Swamp first, because this next one's fucking nuts.
Yep.
That guy's a psycho.
Dude.
I kind of like him.
Stay tuned.
I don't
for
want to be
that.
friends with him, but I do kind of like
Oh
him.
my god.
And I feel like
dude.
I've met people like him too.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
'cause we
I-
have.
We've met the same person like
yeah.
him.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of like him. And I think there's people like him. Guys, stay tuned in the next episode for sure. Subscribe to this thing.
This is a teaser.
I've met people like him also, but with a good heart.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's
But there's
completely
there's a
appreciative.
lot of people like him, and some just have good hearts, and some don't. And this guy just doesn't give a fuck.
Dude. Yeah.
Okay, so rating system. Remember, I think it's in episode 2, but it might be episode 3, where they come into, I think they come into Auburn, but I'm not sure exactly what. But someone has taken a life-size gator model, and they have bolted it to
Oh, that's right.
to a big
That's why college
like
football's cool.
pig wire frame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. So, how many fake gator models bolted to pig wire
Out of 5?
out of 5?
Like a 1.8?
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, I'll
2?
give this like a 1. Boring.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll give it 2, but just because of Tebow's jack biceps in the contemporary interviews.
Okay, I guess
He's like kind of dead behind the eyes.
No,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
dead.
so dead
I
behind
guess
the
the
eyes.
one positive I want to give this thing, the gym scenes, and it's because I'm a meathead, but the gym scenes were dope.
I
like
thought
the-
they
like-
were way
There
over
was
the
some
top.
men. There was some men on that team.
Yeah,
for
they're
sure.
but the over the top is probably was real.
I
'Cause
would
the
love to have seen them doing that stuff like in the off season or the preseason and not during the season. That
Who
that's
knows
really
when
bugged
it
me.
was shot. Though.
They're
yeah.
18. No,
Yeah.
they're fine.
I guess.
Yeah, no, they're
I guess.
18 doing rows to failure.
and
Yeah, they'll be fine.
SARMs.
And
Oh,
SARMs.
no, way beyond.
At least
Their
SARMs. I don't
Gatorade
know.
for sure had
Yeah.
Trent in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trenade. All
Some of
right.
those kids were big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, they were
And they are
huge.
specimens. Some of them could have been natty for sure.
Yeah.
They're the cream of the crop.
Think about like in high school football, like how many of your friends were taking like fucking
For sure,
shit.
good amount. But that's because they're also trash.
But lots
Like
of,
if you're already smashing heads,
Everybody who looks 35 in high school, you know,
yeah.
either it's natural or it is an enhancement.
A lot
but
of people I knew in high school
it's all the same thing.
yes.
that took shit for football or rugby or whatever, they weren't good athletes.
Yeah, you're
Like,
right.
a lot
some
of
the
this-
better ones were not
yeah,
on shit.
some of the specimens I hung out with, or even Kyle, like the specimens, they just didn't even know because they were already shitting on everyone.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. You're right.
Like,
it's always the littler guy on
Yeah,
the team.
and I obviously went to Hogwarts, so it was way different culture. But like, no one even talked about it at Hogwarts.
See, nobody juiced for Quidditch.
Oh,
Yeah, there wasn't even. Yeah,
Leave it
the
to it.
strict testing in Quidditch is nuts.
yeah, it's fair.
We didn't even think about it.
All right, Dean, where can people find you?
You can find me over at Caffeine and Kilos on IG or at deansidorus.ck.
Ladies and gentlemen, new episode Wednesday and Friday. 3sb.co for all your gym apparel needs. Good company, discord.com if you want to tap into the community. And I'm telling Mike where you want to find me.
I'm at the Jim McDonald on all the social media. This show is 50% facts, where percent is a word and 50 is just numbers. 50% facts is a Spreaker Prime podcast in association with iHeartMedia on the Obscure Celebrity Network. And we'll talk to you Friday. And next week, be sure to tune in for BSI.
Take it, guys.